Hello, everyone. Happy Friday to you. So good to see you. Sorry I started a little late because I had the hiccups and I was willing them to go away before I hopped on. Go figure, that's my luck, timing. But so good to see all of you on this perfect Friday. I've got Jason checking in, Bonnie is here, Celeste, Maria, John, Janice is here, Renee, Robert, Marcel, so good to see all of you. Janice in Texas, Kathy, Holly, Donna, so many faces and names that I recognize, which is great. It's great to see all of you. And John, yes, the glasses, they are still on my face, and I assume I will see them pop up in your drawing, which makes me so happy. I'm going to send a pair of these to John because I think he would look really good in them. So that's on my list of things to do. But I thought today, as always, is a perfect day to dive into some student art, some stuff that you all have shared with us in the schoolyard. Let's just spend 10 or 15 minutes looking at art, thinking about creative things, and doing some drawing. I know for me personally, at least in the United States, we've got a lot on our minds. We might be refreshing our phones constantly or listening to the radio, but I've turned all those things off. And I hope that you have too, and I've put my phone on the other side of the room. So let's just think about art for a minute and take a break from all the noise. And to those of our friends that are in Europe right now, I know Anka just checked in. I hope all of you are staying safe and healthy, and you might be in lockdown right now, but at least you've got your sketchbooks and your art supplies. So let's get to it. So I wanted to share this beautiful drawing from Renat, she started documenting these old cameras that she had. And I love that she did a lot of writing about these. It's in German, but she started drawing cameras and drawing some of the photographs and some of the memories that she captured with these very cameras. And I loved how her pages have been turning out. She's done a few studies of these cameras and shared them with us in the schoolyard. And I just wanted to point out how beautiful these drawings are and drawing of photographs kind of in a scrapbook style, which I love how that turned out. And another student, Petra, shared, speaking of sewing, you guys are talking about that, she shared some of her materials because she's been getting back into sewing a lot, but also drawing what she's using and what she's sewing. So I love kind of blending those two hobbies together, as Petra did here. She said she stayed up, late until 11 p.m. sewing, and then she jumped right into her sketchbook to do some drawing, which is great. Another student, Nicole, has been working through more materials here like scissors and sewing materials. Nicole's working through Art Boot Camp, and this is one of her first contour line drawings. And I love the simplicity of this and the color and the shadow that she got here. So this is great. So Nicole, keep up the good work in Art Boot Camp. That's our beginner course. This is a beautiful drawing, and I hope that you stick with it. Looks like Bob and Mama Bear are checking in, and Nancy from Delaware. So good to see more of you trickling in. Another student joined us, Lisa joined us for Draw With Me yesterday with Danny, and I wanted to share this. So Danny did this really cool pigeon skeleton, and we saw so many cool drawings of it in the schoolyard. But I wanted to point this out because Lisa actually did this, and unknowingly her mother also watched Draw With Me from a different location. And they both ended up doing the drawings with Danny, and she put them side by side. And I just love seeing Lisa put up a drawing next to her mom's drawing. And it's really cool to see the differences and how they each approached it. My mom just got really enthusiastically into sketchbook school recently, so it's been really fun to track her progress, and she's sending me pictures of drawings, and I love that Lisa was able to share this with her mom too. So thanks for sharing that, Lisa, that little side-by-side. Another student, Kate, is using drawing lately to document kind of phases of her own life. Now Kate is actually about to undergo radiation for a brain tumor, which is a really big deal and really scary. And she's actually using this as an opportunity to do some selfies to kind of track this part of her life and the different stages of her treatment. And Kate, I just want to thank you for sharing this with us and being vulnerable. And I think this portrait is beautiful. And I'm sure that you captured a lot of feelings and emotions and things going through your mind right now. And I want to wish you, from all of us at Sketchbook School, good luck with this next round of treatment. But I think this is a beautiful portrait, and I hope that you'll continue to use drawing to kind of get through this tough process. Another student, Joanna, did an exercise where she actually focused on one subject, on this house, and she gave herself challenges in 1 minute with 1 minute increments. So you can kind of track the progress of her drawing here as she worked in 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and 6 minutes. And I think that it's really cool to see, when you think about it, when you give yourself such a short amount of time to do something, what are the essentials and what are some of the things that you add and embellish as you get more time to work on a drawing. So I really loved how Joanna kind of showed the multiple steps of this challenge that she gave herself. Giving herself different amounts of time to try and get a drawing down on paper. Joanna, thanks for sharing that with us. Another student, Justina, has started experimenting with doing paintings in watercolor and acrylic, and then applying ink and dip pen drawing over top of them. And I just can't get over sort of the dimension of this and the depth and these bright colors and the contrast of her lines here, applying that ink over top of a painting. So Justina, thank you for sharing this with us, and I've seen you've done a few of these in the schoolyard, and I'm excited to see how this mixed media approach, what it does for your artwork, because it's really beautiful. Another student, Judy, ended up doing a doodle that turned into a full-blown painting and kind of going off the page of this old car. And I have a soft spot for old vehicles, old cars. My dad was a total kind of gearhead, and growing up we were always surrounded by hot rods in various states of completion. Some looked more like this car and some were a little more finished, but I love seeing old cars and I think they have so much character to draw. So Judy, thank you for drawing that. Caroline actually just completed a sketchbook, and I wanted to ring the cowbell for Caroline for completing a sketchbook. And she's actually about to go into lockdown again where she is in Europe, and she has a new sketchbook for that stage of her being at home, sheltering in place. But she finished off this sketchbook and is going to add this little sailor portrait to the end of it by tucking this in her last page. And I thought that this was an adorable little character study to kind of close out her sketchbook. So, way to finish that up, Caroline. And now for the portion of our program where I hope that you all came with something to draw with and came with a sketchbook. For me, this will be the first drawing I'm doing today. Thank you, Celeste. I'm glad you liked the art that you saw today. There's some really good stuff, right? But I hope that you brought a sketchbook. And today, we might have done this before, but for me personally, I wanted to focus on something that brings me joy and makes me happy. You can choose whatever you want for this, but I'm going to put up an image of my absolute favorite creature of all time, and that's a sloth. And we've probably drawn sloths together. I've probably mentioned them. I've probably posted them in the schoolyard to draw as some of our drawing challenges. But I just love these animals, and for me, mentally, I needed a break from everything else going on right now to just focus on something cute and something whimsical and something, that has nothing to do with devices or elections or the news. So for today, I want you to focus on something that makes you happy or brings you joy or makes you smile. And I just really love this little guy. So I'm going to focus on him today. You don't have to, but this is who I am going to set my sights on for today's drawing. So I love sloths. I know they're in fashion and a lot of people love sloths. I did a report on sloths when I was in second grade. We got assigned a letter of the alphabet and had to pick an animal that started with that letter. I was assigned S, and I wound up with sloth. And I love these little creatures. So I'm going to set our timer. I hope you have a sketchbook and a pen. This will be quick, but I'm going to work in a yellow marker because I love yellow. It's my favorite color. And I'm going to draw this little guy, and I hope that you will join me in drawing him. And I'm going to start our timer. And if you don't want to draw him, you can draw something else that just makes you happy or makes you smile. But for me, it is definitely sloths. And I think that today, I just needed to look at a sloth. I needed to look at something that was going to make me smile. So that's what I'm going for. And I hope that you'll join me in doing a drawing, whatever that ends up being for you. But I'm going to focus on this little guy because I just love him. And I hope that you'll draw something that makes you happy. And the thing I love about sloths, and you know that sloth facts were going to be part of this because it's sloths and I love them and I've written book reports on them. So I have a few stashed up in my old memory bank. I love that I don't remember like really important things, but I remember facts about sloths because obviously that's crucial. But sloths are so fascinating to me because they're kind of like otherworldly little creatures. And there are so many elements to sloths that I think are just really unique in terms of in the animal kingdom. They're very interesting little guys. And there are lots of different variations of sloths. But my favorite, absolute favorite, wacky kind of variation of the sloth is actually something that was around in prehistoric times. So there were actually sloths or variations of sloths present with the dinosaurs. But there was a prehistoric sloth that was called a megatherium, and it was actually the size of an elephant. So it was kind of like a pseudo dinosaur sloth. And I just think that is so cool. And there's actually a museum here in town in Columbus, if you're ever at the Ohio State University. Their geology museum has a skeleton replica of one of these giant ground sloths. And it's almost the size of a Volkswagen Beetle, and it's just really round. And they had these giant plates made out of bone, kind of like armor, to protect them from predators. Although when you're that big, I don't know what would try to eat you. But I guess dinosaurs could be bigger than that, so that's a silly question. But they had these giant ground sloths in prehistoric times, and I thought that was so fascinating. And then another fact about sloths is they spend 90% of their life upside down, which is wild to think about if we were to spend 90% of our time upside down. And the reason that they can do that is because their organs are actually attached to their rib cage. So they're not worried. Nature doesn't allow their lungs to be compressed when they're upside down or their organs are moving around, because their organs attach to their rib cage. So they stay in place no matter whether they're upside down or sideways. So it's really cool that is how they can hang out upside down. And Dee is talking about there being sloths at the Indianapolis Zoo. I would love to see that exhibit. That would be worth the road trip from Ohio, most definitely. But I just love that these guys just hang out all day and spend all that time upside down. And another fun fact is that they're really good swimmers, just something that I did not know from my middle school or grade school book report. Really good at swimming. They can move 3 times faster in the water than they can on land. And another fun thing about them is that they can turn their heads 270 degrees because they have an extra vertebrae in their neck. So they've got a much bigger range of motion for looking for predators and protecting themselves. They can turn their heads really far, much more range of motion than we have as humans. So those are really fun. Just thinking about how far they can rotate their little necks. And another fact is that they only move about 100 feet in one day, and their land speed is about 1 foot per minute, which is very slow, and they do that to conserve energy. So all the things about a sloth that maybe you didn't even know that you wanted to know, but now you know these facts, and I suspect these are going to pop up in John Cromer's drawing, so I can't wait to see his recap from this session. But I love sloths, and I appreciate all of you humoring me and joining me to draw whatever brings you joy. For me, it's a sloth, something that I needed to look at today. And I hope that you all have an awesome Friday and a great weekend, and that we see you around the schoolyard. I would love to see sloth drawings in the schoolyard if you use the student bulletin topic, or share them on social media. You can tag Sketchbook School if you ended up drawing this little guy. I love collecting sloth images. Lots of students draw them and then tag me in them, and it just makes me so happy. So thanks for joining me today, for tuning in and just kind of taking a break and unplugging from the rest of the world. so that we can hang out together and look at some awesome art. And I hope that you have a fantastic weekend wherever you are, and that you stay safe and healthy, and that you focus on something good today, something that brings you joy. And that's what I'm going to keep doing as I finish this sloth drawing. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next week.